The USNS Hoyt Vandenberg provides a spooky backdrop for a photo shoot in low visibility in today's episode on the Dive SAGA channel. Cloudy skies as the sun sets over Miami and we make our way south into the Florida Keys for a few dives on a famous wreck and the second largest artificial reef in the world, the USNS Hoyt Vandenberg wreck.
We are in the Florida Keys and I'm in the car with underwater photographer Gil Sassi and Barry Korzeker, Stephen Ainsley. We're en route to Key West for a photo shoot for our friends at Ocean Technology Systems. We're on a full face mask photo shoot on the USNS Hoyt Vandenberg, so probably one of the more famous wrecks in the world. Weather has been rough, so I heard that the visibility is probably not going to be super great, but that's even more interesting really from a photo shoot perspective, and it also lends further usefulness to the full face masks that we're gonna wear, because this episode is sponsored by Ocean Technology Systems, and so we'll be using their Guardian full face masks.
Weather conditions in late August are always dicey in this part of the world, because this time of the year, tropical storms and hurricanes are always brewing somewhere in the Caribbean, and they are usually headed north. Despite some rough weather at night, we wake up to a gorgeous sunrise and fair conditions to jump on Captain's Corner's dive boat to take us out to sea. We are setting up our Ocean Technology Systems Guardian full face masks and comm systems, because the mission today is to come home with some beautiful promotional materials from this iconic American dive site. As we head out to the dive site, clouds gather above our heads. As much as we'd like to have full control over the mood and lighting for this shoot, the elements will ultimately dictate the outcome, and there isn't much we can do to influence that.
You may find some other videos on this channel about the OTS Guardian and other full face masks that OTS has produced. They're not just great for recreational divers, but also for media work, and they supply a lot of armed forces around the world. So we figured, what better location for a photo shoot than a decommissioned US Navy vessel?
The USNS General Hoyt S. Vandenberg started its career as a transport ship in World War II and ended it as a missile range instrumentation ship tracking ballistic missiles and spacecraft across the globe. She's a great artifact of American military history, and after being decommissioned and purposely sunk, she now continues to serve as an artificial reef. I'm starting to get a little bit worried about the conditions, and I hope the visibility isn't too affected. At least we'll be able to talk to each other underwater, which should help us get the best possible results during the shoot.
The Guardian can be equipped with communication systems, and I know that a lot of people dive to find some peace and quiet, but when you're trying to do something complex like a shoot in relatively low visibility, being able to communicate in a more refined way than just with hand signals or slates, that's actually amazing. And just like that, the subject of the shoot also became a tool.
As soon as we descend, we realize this isn't going to be a walk in the park. The current is strong enough to prompt us to use the descent line so as not to drift away. Luckily, we are not just limited to needing visual contact with each other, as we have the ability to communicate verbally as well. A big Goliath grouper welcomes us to the Vandenberg wreck site, where it is confirmed that my worries were justified. The visibility is extremely poor. Luckily, Dive guide Justin is also equipped with a comm system, so we can inform him on the fly about our photography needs. The Vandenberg does look spooky in these conditions, and while that's not what we had envisioned for this shoot, sometimes it's best to assess the conditions and then just lean into them instead of fighting them.
First of all, this is the textbook reason why underwater photographers like to use wide-angle lenses. They allow you to get close to your subject and still see a lot of it, which reduces the amount of turbid water, bad visibility particles that are between your lens and the subject.
On wrecks specifically, the visibility may be better in the interior than the exterior of the ship, because the structure provides shelter from the elements such as the current, limiting sand and other particles from entering. That is, if you don't stir up any silt, of course. Inside the wreck, we even run into the Goliath grouper again. Wide shots or trying to show large parts of the structure, such as here, are nearly impossible. The key is to find isolated elements on the wreck that are recognizable and make for an interesting backdrop. When working with one or more strobe lights, it is also important to avoid backscatter.
Every underwater photographer knows backscatter, and it's something to avoid. Backscatter is what happens when there are particles between your lens and the subject, and your lights or strobes illuminate the particles as well as the subject. It's those white little dots in front of your picture. Now, the best way to avoid this is actually to place your strobes or lights away from the lens and at a 45-degree angle or so that they illuminate the subject but not the space in front of it. That is not a magical solution, but it helps a little bit in making the picture a little clearer when the water is not super amazing.
Being a missile range instrumentation ship, the Vandenberg carried several satellite dishes. Unfortunately, these iconic structures have slowly eroded and fallen off their mounts. The remains are still visible on the wreck and make for one of the Vandenberg's most recognizable features. Towards the end of our shoot, we develop an audience, as a hawksbill turtle swims by and immediately develops a crush on photographer Gil. A willing wildlife appearance like this is always great for photos. It is not exactly what we came for, but it's too good an opportunity to leave on the table, especially when the turtle is so relaxed and happy to hang out with us. Harassing wildlife to get a shot is never okay, but if they want to get in the photo with you, you don't say no. The hawksbill sea turtle is a critically endangered sea turtle, so it's always nice to see them in their natural environment. This one is exceptionally large, making the encounter even more memorable. this is a great reward at the end of some exhausting dives. Keep an eye on the Ocean Technology Systems social media for some of the results.
I hope you guys like those results. So as expected, the conditions weren't super great, but that's just how it is, and that's just scuba diving, and that's photography, and you adapt and you overcome, right? So special thanks again to Ocean Technology Systems for sponsoring this episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the Saga channel, and I'll see you next time.